Welcome to this session on sandfly control. Today, we're going to explore how we protect communities from one of nature's tiniest yet most dangerous disease carriers. By the end of this video, you will understand both the biology of these vectors and the mathematics we use to stop them. Now that we know our topic, let us understand what makes the sandfly so unique. Imagine trying to stop a tiny, silent ninja from entering your house. Unlike mosquitoes that buzz loudly and warn you of their presence, sandflies are incredibly small, completely silent, and mostly bite at night. Controlling them is not as simple as just swatting them away. It is like setting up a multi-layered security system for your home and neighborhood. We have to understand exactly where they hide, how they breed, and what physical or chemical barriers actually stop them from reaching us. Building on that understanding of their behavior, let us look at their biological classification. In medical entomology, these insects primarily belong to two genera. We have phlebotomus in the Old World and Letzomyia in the New World. These flies are not just pests. They are the obligate biological vectors for leishmania parasites. This means the parasite absolutely requires the sandfly to complete its life cycle and transmit to humans. If we can effectively control the sandfly population, we can completely break the chain of transmission for the dangerous diseases they carry. Since we know they are obligate vectors, how do we actually target them? Control strategies are broadly categorized into two main approaches. First, we have adulticidal methods, which are designed to kill the adult flying insects. Second, we have larvicidal or environmental methods, which focus on destroying their breeding sites. A crucial biological detail here is that unlike mosquitoes, sandfly larvae do not develop in standing water. Instead, they develop in moist soil that is rich in organic matter. This specific breeding habit means our environmental control methods must be highly specialized to target these unique habitats. Because their breeding habitats are so specific, relying on just one method is never enough. This brings us to a comprehensive strategy known as integrated vector management, or IVM. IVM is a systematic application of chemical, environmental, and biological interventions, all working together. By combining adulticidal and larvicidal methods, this approach ensures that multiple vulnerabilities in the insect's life cycle are targeted simultaneously. This synergy provides maximum efficacy, ensuring that if a sandfly survives one barrier, it will likely be stopped by the next, drastically reducing the overall population density and lifespan. Understanding how we control them leads us to the most important question. Why is this so critical? The primary reason sandfly control is absolutely essential is to prevent the transmission of leishmaniasis. This is a devastating disease affecting millions globally. The visceral form, also known as Kala-azar, is fatal if left untreated. Meanwhile, the cutaneous forms cause severe permanent scarring and social stigma. Relying solely on treating infected humans is insufficient because the flies will just keep spreading the parasite. Vector control acts as a protective shield, offering the most cost-effective way to lower the disease burden in endemic regions. To truly understand the impact of these diseases, we use a mathematical concept called vectorial capacity. This formula translates biological behaviors into hard numbers, telling us the average number of new infections a single infected person will cause per day. Let us break down the symbols. C is the vectorial capacity itself. The variable m stands for the density of female sandflies per human. If density increases, transmission goes up. The variable A represents the daily biting rate on humans. Notice that it is squared in the formula, meaning even a small reduction in biting rate will have a massive impact on the overall capacity. Looking at the rest of the same formula, we see how time and survival play a role. The variable P is the daily survival rate of the sandfly. The variable N is the extrinsic incubation period, which is the time it takes for the parasite to fully develop inside the fly. Finally, the expression negative natural log of P in the denominator represents the daily mortality rate of the vector. When we apply control methods like indoor residual spraying, we drastically decrease the survival rate P and the density M. This causes a massive, exponential drop in the overall vectorial capacity C, stopping outbreaks in their tracks. Now that we see how reducing survival crashes transmission, let us look at how we actually apply these chemicals in the field. We use the basic area dosage formula for indoor residual spraying. Here, M is the total mass of the active ingredient required, measured in grams. The variable D is the target dosage in grams per square meter, and S is the total sprayable surface area in square meters. This simple multiplication ensures we scale our chemical use perfectly to the size of the dwelling. It prevents both underdosing, which fails to kill the flies, and overdosing, which wastes resources and harms the environment. Before we move on, let us see this with a concrete example. A public health team needs to spray a house to control indoor resting sandflies. We are given a total sprayable surface area, S, of 150 square meters, and a target dosage, D, of 2 grams per square meter. We choose the area dosage formula to find the exact mass needed. We substitute our given values, multiplying 2 by 150. This gives us a final answer of 300 grams. Physically, this means the team must mix exactly 300 grams of active insecticide to ensure any sandfly landing on those walls will absorb a lethal dose. Having seen how we treat walls, let us evaluate another powerful tool: insecticide-treated nets. We can measure their success using the transmission potential ratio formula. Here, R represents the ratio of the new transmission potential to the old one. The variable A new is the biting rate after the nets are applied, and A old is the original biting rate. Notice that the biting rates are squared. This is because the sandfly must bite twice to transmit disease, once to acquire the parasite, and a second time to pass it on. Decreasing the biting rate has a compounded, squared effect on reducing transmission. Let us apply this ratio to a real village scenario. Before using bed nets, the village has a biting rate of 0.2 bites per person per day. After distributing the nets, the rate drops to 0.05. We want to find by what factor the transmission potential decreases. We plug our specific rates into the ratio equation, squaring 0.05 in the numerator and 0.2 in the denominator. This simplifies to 0.0025 divided by 0.04. The final answer is 0.0625. Physically, this means transmission potential has dropped to just 6.25% of its original value, eliminating over 93% of the risk. Now that we have calculated the impact of these interventions, let us visualize how they disrupt the sandfly's life cycle. In this diagram, you can see the 4 stages of development: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Notice the environmental management barrier applied at the soil level, preventing larvae from developing in moist organic matter. As the adult fly emerges and seeks a blood meal, it faces 2 major physical and chemical barriers. First, the indoor residual spraying on the walls targets resting flies. Second, the insecticide-treated nets protect the sleeping human. This visual perfectly illustrates integrated vector management in action, proving we do not need to kill every single fly to stop an epidemic. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us summarize the key takeaways. First, sandfly control is essential for halting leishmaniasis, and it requires a multifaceted, integrated vector management approach. Second, we saw how targeted strategies like indoor residual spraying and insecticide-treated nets mathematically crash the vectorial capacity. They achieve this by drastically reducing both the biting rate and the daily survival of the insects. You now understand both the biology and the math behind these protective shields. Mastering these control techniques empowers public health officials to protect vulnerable populations and save countless lives. Great job following along with this critical topic.